Hey, hello, everyone. How you doing? Thanks for joining us once again. We have introduction. I'm Patrick, I'm the CEO of Monesave and Orukka. We produce a wearables platform for all your smart rings, smart bracelets, and we put this together for our customers. Again, if you haven't joined us previously, this is a quick session where I just go through some Q&As that have come through from my team. The Q&As are, burning topics that have come through either in the media. It's a way of me just connecting with my customers, connecting with you guys as a group, and then we discuss. Again, people ask me, why do I do this? So I do it simple, just connect to my customers. Again, a lot of CEOs and fintech, startup guys, in my opinion, they worship investors in the sense that if an investor calls up today, the CEO will be there the next second. Okay. So for me, I think that needs to be reversed. I think we need to spend more time covering our customers, making sure our customers were there for them rather than sitting in board meetings. So this is one of those. Okay, so today I think we'd like to discuss a topic that came up, which is, are we addicted to our phones? That's a tricky one because, in truth, so again, two sides of this debate, right? We're much more glued to our phones this day because we need to work with our phones. So if you look at a typical, previously, again, this is me throwing a lifeline. Previously, we used to, use the phone just for calls, texts. So if you look at our proportion, the people who just use the phones for call and text today has dropped a lot. So that means we're doing a lot more in terms of banking on our phones. We're doing a lot in terms of payments on our phones, navigation on our phones. A few more things that we usually do on our laptops previously. When people are running businesses from their phones, you're possibly listening to this on your phone. So the utility of the phone has gone up dramatically, right? And so we need to give that, give that possibility. However, that being said, we should also know as well, again, if you haven't read my or watched my episode on, being a product and what being a product means, you can always read that up, right? So as it stands, clearly, it seems to me that over the last few months, few years, while we've become, dependent on our phones, we've also become subject of manufacturers who have bending the rules, right? I saw a post the other day around, just the diversity of phone designs previously. So previously, you have a phone, a flip phone that closes in and out and make your calls drop it. Okay. Now, if you look at the typical phones, it's rectangular box, right? I have one here, right? So this is what a phone looks like these days. That's it. If I didn't tell you, if you didn't look at that box, you'd hardly know if that's iPhone, Android, nothing phone, any phone. It could just be a rectangular box. So it seems to me that just the guys have thrown in the towel in terms of innovation, and everything has to be a box, right? And and it's not coincidental, right? So the question is why? Should phones be a box? And then with different megapixels of camera, that's all you get now. And the camera and the memory is what becomes innovation. Have we reached the crescendo, of ever innovation in terms of designs? I don't think so. I do think there's been a move towards maximizing times on the phone. And I'm not just saying this because we have our rings are obviously for minimalists, right? So we want to try and reduce dependencies on phones. So that's one thing to look at, and just bear that in mind because that's where I'm going with my thinking, with my logic. I'm inclined to go against phones in general because they just reduce there's a lot of dependence on them these days, especially in metropolitan cities where people get robbed 6% of the time. So if you bring out your phone, it's most likely that your phone will be robbed or snatched at some point, or your wallet. So we have that minimalism where you just have this ring for the payments and you don't have to rely on those phones. You don't have to rely on your battery dying on your phones, right? So that's it, right? That's where it's now coming from. At least, my own bias is to just reduce the reliance on the phones. But my point is, it just becomes a lot more, obvious that people are now relying on the phone specifically for other things other than phone calls, text, and connecting to loved ones. Samsung is a lot more about social media, and that's driven by the innovation that we see these days. I mean, there are two topical innovations that we can tell, right? Every time a new iPhone comes out, every time a new Android-based phone comes out, and again, that's 99% of the market there already. So you're talking about, um, phones around, listen, things that have got like, you know, screens, okay, in terms of display. your needs as well as so big. Again, why? For social media. Pictures always getting better. So the camera is getting way, way better in terms of zoom, in terms of extra, in terms of focus, social media. So it just seems to me that the phone manufacturers over the last few years have sort of accentuated and pushed that drive towards social media as much as possible. And that's where, I see a lot of people now becoming addicted specifically to that social media. Because in truth, if you look at it, you pick up your phone. A lot of people these days pick up your phone. Be honest, right? The first thing you do when you pick up your phone is you go to that social media, whichever it is. Pick your poison, right? It could be WhatsApp. It could be, well, again, mind you, WhatsApp, Facebook, that's social media, Facebook, Instagram, all linked together. That is one group, right? Then there's TikTok, then there's Reddit. There's quite a few, right? Where you'd go in and check. LinkedIn is social media now. So there's that move towards that, which I think is all linked to the phone in terms of spending more time on that phone. And the phone companies try as much as possible. If they brought out a camera with a small, a phone with a small camera or with a small screen, that's not going to sell the social media group anything, right? And trust me, people would buy it, but it's just not going to be there. The smaller phones these days hopefully gets a comeback. In my opinion, I think we're addicted, and I'm not giving an excuse to anyone, but if you need an excuse, there's one here. You're addicted to your phones because of social media, because the companies are these pushing and trying to see that our attention is, which is the prize, is there on the phones. Good cameras, good screens. So that's it for me, right? So let's see, again, if there's any comments, right, in terms of how we become, any questions around that. So first question is, are we addicted or just dependent? Okay, so this came from one of the users, right? I think we're dependent, but we're addicted, as I said from the start. So we are dependent in as much as your navigation is done on your phone these days. Your what do you call your banking is done on your phone these days, even with our rings. So when you make a payment, you still have to go back and see what your transaction is. To top up the ring, you have to do it on your phone. So there is a dependence there, and there's nothing against that, right? And that's where it should be. But if you look at it, right, if you look at the consumption in terms of utility of your phone, you spend a lot more time on social media than the utility. Like how many times have you opened up your app and looked at your banking app for more than 10 minutes, 15 minutes? If you compare that to how long you've been on any social media platform, it's a lot more. So I think, yes, we're dependent on our phones a lot more these days because of the functionality and the productivity that the phones allow. I think we are a lot more addicted to the social media sections of that, you know. And then the question came here, would you rather lose your wallet or your phone? I would rather lose my wallet for clear reasons. So, these are my wallet these days. So I don't carry cash around. I don't carry cards around. And, obviously my phone, I need it for topping up. If someone steals this, I need to be able to disable it on my phone. So my phone is important and my wallet less so these days. And here's the other point. Our attention spans is shrinking because of phones. I think so. So we're losing attention span specifically because of this. I mean, this topic I can tell you is boring enough. And again, we have I think a good turnout in terms of being a CEO and talking about fintech topics. You can look at any of the top banks, right? So, and I've worked in a lot of banks. So, I worked at let's pick one, any top bank. So let's go with say Citibank. So Citibank has about 250,000 employees. Okay, but think about it. The CEO, Jane Fraser, if she was going to throw a town hall in 24 hours notice, she would struggle to get 500 people. Could you max? What are we saying? No, of 250,000 people, she'd be lucky to get 200 people on the day. And it's not because they have no respect for him, because again, for her, sorry, and she's paying the salaries, right? But the idea is just the fact that people are busy, people's got meetings and people have other commitments. That then becomes that you'll be lucky to get such amount of people. So for us, we're happy. So when I put this podcast out, I'm happy with the amount of people. So if you look at it right now, I think we'd have about 200 right now. So when I upload this, there'll be 200 people. That's enough for us. So we are happy with that. But social media has ruined it so much that seeing 200 people, we just go, oh, that's nothing. But it's important our support because we want to see millions, right? But millions just not realistic, especially for topics. I mean, if you're an influencer that's just selling a pipe dream or selling a movie or a cartoon and then or comedy, pranks these days, Mr. Beast, for instance, that's the entertainment. So for that hits millions. That's true. And things like that. You're right. You need that, but not everything is a comedy or a dance, right? So if you're passing information on, I think it's important to have that attention and be appreciative of people who listen to you. And this goes out to people who want to, again, produce apps. If you want to start your own business, if you want to start your own topic like this, start your own app, for instance, you should and not worry about his numbers because you're just saying anything. These days, you talk to 100 people, and that's a lot. Put 100 people in a room, that's a lot. If you're a CEO and you have 100 people showing up to a meeting, that's a lot. So think about that next time. And then obviously the attention span becomes another point as well, where a lot of things are just quickly going through. Again, you have 2 seconds to capture anyone's attention these days on social media. That's an issue as I see in the long run, especially with everyone these days being, identified with ADHD. There's a reason for that because our social media and our attention span are just going lower and lower and lower. And it gets worse with AI because AI now would then take away a lot more things so that we only have split seconds to make decisions. So that's a concern for me. And, we'll see how this goes, right? We'll see if we can adjust. Again, humans are good at adjusting and evolving with time. So we'll see how that goes. Now, the next point, I think a few questions people wanted to ask. Let me ask one final one before we drop for the day. I need to get back to work. The next point is, okay, is social media a plague or a curse? Social media, in my opinion, is I don't blame anyone who is addicted to social media. In fact, I don't blame people who start off social media. That's important, right? Because if you look at it previously, when we talked Facebook, it was one of the biggest, right? Before Facebook became big, they had, we had Bebo, we had MySpace for those old enough to remember it. So they were not the first. So people look at, Zuckerberg as if he's the devil here, right? But he's not because social media existed before him. And but all he's done, which people don't realize, is that he's now commercialized it and made it such that you had to use social media. He played on us because we as humans we wanted to connect to people. Again, if you're here and then you've got family in Philippines, US, Nigeria, South Africa, wherever, right? It was hard to connect to people. You've gone out of university since you're in secondary school, wherever, right? And you've not seen some people. So it was a good way to connect. And that's what they tapped into. Social media did that well. They tapped into that need and then commercialized it, which is the same thing any other company does. So if you look at your bank taps into your need for security of your cash. They hold your cash, they lend it out, and you're almost grateful that they hold in your cash. But in truth, what they've done is they've taken on the security part of things. For us as well, same thing. We bring out convenience. So we're just taking your card, your wallet into a convenience of a ring so that you tap and go. You don't have to take your wallet everywhere on a night out, trains, things like that, running. If you get married, for instance, then you have your payment ring on your wedding ring as well. So that convenience is what we put together. So companies do that, and it's nothing bad. So if the social media comes out tomorrow, TikTok came up recently as well. Again, TikTok were not even in existence 3, 4 years ago. And but now they're like one of the top. And the reason for that simple is you had that algorithm where they were able to just, no matter who you are, you don't even have to push or commercialize yourself that much to spread that around. And that need for connection, with millions and billions of people is what drove TikTok to be famous. So in my opinion, I think I don't blame the companies other than greed. I don't blame people as well who go on social media because it's a way of connection. I mean, I'm talking to several people. Imagine if I had to talk to 500, 600 people face to face. It'd be impossible to get everyone in the room logistically. But now I'm talking to 500 people. When I upload this, 500 people watch it today. That's crazy. And that's because of social media. So the power of social media is there. It's not a plague. However, like anything else, like AI, nuclear weapons, like guns, like knives, it has to be used with care. And it has to be used to support us rather than just take over our lives. So that's it for me today. Again, great topic as usual. Join us for the next episode. We'll try and catch up as regular as possible. If you have any questions, you can either put it in the comments below or just reach out in our app. Our app is monesave.com without the Y or Orukka, Orukka. Check the description. So you can download, buy one of our rings, and on the app you can ask as many questions as possible. I pick them up and I'll address them in the next episode. So have a nice day. Talk to you later.